I never should have taken that job. I knew it the moment I pulled onto that empty stretch of highway, the kind that feels like it swallows you whole. Nothing but miles of cracked asphalt and the occasional flickering road sign coated in rust. But the money was good, too good, and I had bills to pay. The job was simple. Pick up a sealed cargo from a warehouse in Montana and deliver it to a facility in Nevada. No stops, no questions, just drive. The guy who handed me the keys barely looked me in the eye, muttered something about sticking to the route no matter what, and slammed the door shut behind me. That should have been my first red flag. About 3 hours in, I realized I hadn't seen another car in over an hour. No headlights behind me, no taillights ahead, just me and the road, stretching endlessly into the black maw of the desert. That's when the first sign appeared. It was an old wooden board, half rotted and leaning to one side. Someone had spray painted something across it in bold, uneven letters. Turn around. I felt my stomach knot, but I kept driving. Probably some idiot playing a prank, but then 20 minutes later, another sign. Last chance. The paint was fresh, still dripping. A cold, sick feeling crawled up my spine. I looked in my rearview mirror, half expecting to see someone standing on the road behind me, but there was nothing. Just the endless dark stretching behind my taillights. I turned up the radio, but all I got was static. Then I saw the headlights. At first it was just a pinprick of light in the distance, but within minutes it was right, behind me. A pair of blinding high beams. No sound of an engine. No sign of a car. Just light. I tapped my brakes. No reaction. I switched lanes. The lights followed. I sped up. They stayed right on my bumper. By now, my heart was pounding so hard it felt like it would burst through my ribs. I could feel the heat of the headlights burning into the back of my skull. I gritted my teeth and floored it, my truck roaring forward. Then, just like that, the lights were gone. Not like they slowed down or turned off. They just vanished. 1 second they were blinding me, and the next the road behind me was pitch black again. I exhaled shakily, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles ached, and then my radio turned on by itself. A voice crackled through the static, low, distorted, like someone whispering directly into my ear. He's in the back, the cargo. I slammed on the brakes so hard I nearly skidded off the road. My entire body went cold. I stared at the rearview mirror, half expecting to see someone sitting in the cab behind me. But it was empty. Just me. The truck was silent, except for the ticking of the engine cooling down. I turned slowly toward the cargo hold. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to move. But I had to. I reached for the door handle, and then something knocked from inside the trailer. Once. Twice. Slow, deliberate thud. I held my breath, my fingers frozen just inches from the latch. Then the knocking stopped, and something scratched at the metal. Long, agonizing strokes, like nails dragging against bone. That was when I realized I was not alone. I sat there paralyzed, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. The air inside the cab felt thick, suffocating, like the walls were closing in. The scratching stopped. Silence. And then, the latch of the cargo hold clicked open. I swear to God, I didn't touch it. A low metallic creak echoed as the doors slowly began to swing apart. My gut screamed at me to floor it, to get the hell out of there, but I couldn't move. I was frozen, trapped in the suffocating grip of something far worse than fear. I stared into the mirror, watching the cargo doors open wider. And that's when I saw it. A figure, tall, impossibly thin, stepped out from the trailer, moving with an unnatural slowness, like a marionette on strings. The headlights barely touched it, but I could see the outline of its body, twisted and wrong. Its limbs were too long. Its fingers, too many. Then it did something that nearly made me piss myself. It turned its head toward me. Not quickly. Not suddenly. Just slowly, like it had all the time in the world. And then it grinned. Not a human grin. No lips, just a gaping, cavernous hole lined with jagged teeth stretching across its entire face. I don't remember screaming, but my throat burned like I had. My body finally snapped out of its paralysis, and I did the only thing that made sense. I slammed the truck into gear and floored it. The tires screeched, the engine roared, and I shot forward, heart hammering against my ribs. My eyes flicked to the mirror, and it was there. Not running. Not chasing, just standing in the middle of the road watching me. But then as my taillights dimmed, something moved behind it. The cargo doors were still open, and inside, dozens of eyes stared back at me. I nearly veered off the road. My brain couldn't process it. There hadn't been anything inside that trailer when I picked it up, but now there were things. Watching, moving, crawling. I drove like a madman. I didn't care about the route anymore, didn't care about the job, didn't care about the money. I just needed to get away. The next few hours were a blur. At some point I saw headlights again, real headlights, and nearly crashed into a gas station parking lot. I stumbled out of the truck, shaking, barely able to breathe. The clerk inside stared at me as I collapsed onto the counter. "Jesus, man. You look like you've seen a ghost," he muttered. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I turned, slowly, toward the lot, expecting to see that thing standing there waiting, but the truck was gone. Not stolen, not driven away, just gone, like it had never been there. The clerk kept talking, but I wasn't listening. My hands were still shaking, my skin clammy with sweat. Then I heard it, a soft knock. I snapped my head toward the glass door. Nothing. But when I looked down, there was a handprint on the inside, and it was still wet. I ran. I didn't stop. I didn't turn back, and I never ever take jobs that go through the middle of nowhere anymore. Because I know what's out there, and I know it's still watching me. I was never afraid of my phone, until last night. It started with a call at 3:13 a.m. That alone should have been enough to unsettle me, but it was the ringtone that sent a sharp spike of fear through my spine, because my phone was on silent. And worse, it wasn't my ringtone. It was a deep, distorted chime, a sound I had never heard before, something ancient and wrong. I stared at the screen. The number was a mess of symbols and glitched-out digits, like the universe itself was malfunctioning. My gut told me not to answer. But my hand was already moving, like something wanted me to pick up. The moment I pressed accept, the air in my apartment shifted, the kind of pressure change you feel right before a storm. At first, there was only silence. Then the breathing started, slow, shaky, too close. "Hello?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. A second passed, then two. Then, "I see you." A whisper, ragged and unnatural. I swear it came from inside my room. I sat up so fast I nearly fell out of bed, my pulse hammering in my throat. I looked around, my darkened apartment was still, nothing out of place. But then the voice spoke again. "You shouldn't have answered, Matthew." My breath caught. My blood turned to ice. It knew my name? I didn't speak. Couldn't. My lips were glued shut with fear. A slow chuckle slithered through the line, thick with amusement, but underneath it, there was something else. Something inhuman. Then, in a voice that barely sounded human anymore, it rasped, "Check your window." No. No. My body refused to obey, but my eyes, they betrayed me. I turned my head, just enough to see the darkened glass of my bedroom window. And that's when I saw it. A shadowed figure, standing completely still, facing me from outside the second-floor window. No eyes, no features, just a silhouette watching me. The phone clicked off. But the call never ended. A second later, the ringtone started again. From inside my closet, the ringtone blared from my closet. That same distorted chime, warping the air, making my skull vibrate. Like my bones were rejecting the sound itself. I couldn't move. I didn't want to move, but the shadow in the window did. It twitched. Just the smallest motion, a slight tilt of the head like it was acknowledging that I'd heard the sound. Then, in the silence between each ring, I realized something worse. The closet door wasn't fully closed anymore. Somewhere between when I went to bed and now it had opened an inch, something was inside. Something was waiting. The phone rang again, and this time I swear I heard breathing from both sides of the door. No. 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 My shaking hands dug under my pillow, scrambling for my actual phone. The screen was still on the call screen, still. Open, 0000. The call had never ended. Another ring. Closer now. I gripped the phone like a lifeline and forced myself up. One step. My bare foot hit the freezing wooden floor and my bones screamed at me to run. Then, click. The ringtone stopped. Silence. Dead and suffocating. The closet door creaked open another inch. That's when I saw them. Fingers. Just barely. Visible in the dark. Long, bony, stretching outward too far for a normal hand. I lunged for my bedroom door. I didn't care what was out there. I just needed to get the fuck out. The second my hand touched the knob, a voice, right in my ear. Don't. Turn around. Ice shot through my veins. I felt it there behind me, too tall, too still. I squeezed my eyes shut. I won't look. I won't look. Something brushed my shoulder. I ripped the door open and ran. Hallway. Front door. Keys. Out. Now. I crashed into the cold night air, my lungs burning. My feet hit the pavement, but I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I didn't stop running until I was blocks away, standing under the sickly glow of a street lamp, gasping like I had been drowning in my own house. Then, my phone buzzed. A text. From my own number. 4 words. You left the door open. My stomach dropped. I turned, heart pounding, staring back at my apartment in the distance. From the second-floor window, a figure stood there, inside my home, and just before the light in my bedroom flickered off, I saw it. A hand, lifting a phone to its ear. The call wasn't over. It had only just begun. There was a door in my apartment that wasn't supposed to be there. It was the first thing I noticed when I moved in. A single, faded red door, tucked away at the end of the hallway. No handle, no keyhole. Just a solid slab of wood, painted over. So many times it looked sealed shut. The landlord's words echoed in my head. That door stays closed, Mr. Carter. I should have listened. Day 1. I was desperate for a place, and this shitty apartment in Chicago was cheap. Too cheap. A bad sign, but I ignored it. The moment I signed the lease, though, I felt something off. Like the air inside the apartment was too thick. Heavy, like the place had been waiting for me. That first night I woke up freezing. The heater was on full blast, but my breath was visible in the air. The chill came from the hallway, from the red door. It looked different, like it had shifted slightly. I told myself it was just my imagination. Then at 3 a.m. I heard it, a scraping sound, slow and deliberate, coming from inside the red room. Day 2 I told the landlord about it. He looked at me for a long time before saying, "Stay out of that room." His voice was flat, almost rehearsed. I pressed him for more, but all he said was, "If you hear something, ignore it." That night I heard more than just scraping. I woke up to the sound of whispers, faint, muffled voices coming from behind the red. I couldn't make out the words. It sounded like pleading. I pressed my ear against the wood. The moment I did, the whispers stopped. Then, right against the other side of the door, a knock. I stumbled backward, my pulse slamming in my ears. No fucking way. I barely slept after that. Day 3. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know. I grabbed a crowbar from my toolbox, marched to the hallway, and jammed it into the thin gap between the frame and the door. It took one good pull. The red door creaked open. The stench hit me first. Rot. Dampness. Something sour, like old sweat. The room was wrong. It was small. Too small. The walls were covered in scratches, deep gouges carved into the wood. But the worst part? The walls were red too. Not painted. Stained. And at the center of the room, a single chair. Still warm. Then, the door slammed shut behind me, and the whispers started again. This time they were laughing. The whispers laughed, not from one voice, from dozens. They filled the tiny, suffocating room, a sick chorus of giggling, murmuring, wheezing. My stomach clenched. The door behind me had vanished. I spun around, panicked. The door had been there. I had just walked through it. But now, only more red walls. I was inside the room, and I was not alone. A shadow moved in the corner. Not quite a shape, not quite a person. Just darkness, shifting, stretching, pulling itself toward me. The walls groaned, the air thick with something, rotten and ancient. The whispers grew louder, overlapping, faster, like they were arguing over me. Then, right against my ear, "Sit." A cold breath. Close enough that I felt my skin tighten, my veins shrink. I turned slowly to the chair in the center of the room, and I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. A body. It wasn't a corpse. Not yet. It was a man, sitting, frozen, his mouth open, in a silent scream. His eyes were black pits, empty. His skin, pale, sagging, stretched. Like he'd been in that chair for a long time. But the worst part? I knew his face. It was mine. No. No, no, no. My breath hitched. My mind refused to understand. My own dead face stared back at me, the skin cracked and rotting, lips curling into something wrong. The whispers shrieked. I lunged for the wall, clawing at it, trying to find the door, any way out. My nails scraped deep into the red and something wet oozed out. The walls weren't wood. They were flesh, and they were breathing. I gagged. No. No, this isn't real. Behind me, the chair creaked. Whipped around. The corpse was moving. Its head turned. The empty sockets focused on me. Then, it smiled. A horrible, impossible smile. And it spoke. With my voice. Your turn. The walls contracted. The whispers screamed. The darkness rushed at me. I felt myself. Being pulled, I was falling. I woke up gasping, soaked in sweat. In my bed, in my apartment. Morning light streamed through the window. It was just a dream, a horrible, fucked up nightmare. I sat up, forcing my breath to slow. Thank God. Then I noticed something. My hands were red. Not blood. Paint. Red paint. And across the room, the door, no longer sealed, wide open, and from inside the darkness I heard a voice, my voice, laughing. I should have never played the game. I tell myself that every night when I stare at my reflection, waiting for it to blink before I do. Because one day, I know it will. And I don't think I'll be the one left standing when it does. The dare it started as a stupid bet. Me, Ryan, and Ashley sitting around my apartment in Seattle, scrolling through creepy internet forums for something to kill the boredom. That's when we found it. The mirror game. A ritual supposedly old as hell passed around in whispers. Never let your reflection hold eye contact for too long. People claimed that if you stared at yourself for exactly 3 minutes without breaking focus, something would change. Something. In the mirror would shift. Something that wasn't you would wake up. I laughed it off. That's just Bloody Mary bullshit. Ashley, though, grinned. Then do it. Ryan chuckled, shaking his head. You guys are idiots. But I was feeling cocky, drunk on cheap whiskey and adrenaline. So I did. The first sign, the rules were simple. Turn. Off all the lights. Place a single candle in front of the mirror. Stare at your reflection. Hold eye contact for 3 minutes. If nothing happened, you won. If something happened, well, you wouldn't be able to stop playing. We set it up in my tiny bathroom. I lit the candle, sat on the floor, and faced my own dark, flickering reflection. Ashley set the timer. 3 minutes. Go. At first, nothing happened. Just my own face barely illuminated by the candle. The longer I stared, the weirder it felt, like I was watching a stranger wearing my skin. 1 minute in, my vision blurred slightly. 2 minutes, and my own reflection felt wrong. By the time the last 30 seconds hit, my stomach was tight with a dread I couldn't explain. Then, at exactly 2:59, I blinked, but my reflection didn't. I gasped, jerking back. My elbow hit the candle, knocking it over, plunging the room into complete darkness. The second the flame went out, something whispered in my ear. "Found you," I screamed. Ryan yanked the door open, flooding the room with light. "Jesus, dude, what the fuck?" I was shaking, staring at the mirror. My own reflection stared back, normal. But I knew. I fucking knew. Something had looked out at me. Something had seen me. The changes, I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt like someone was watching me. By morning, I convinced myself it was just a trick of the light, a mind game. But then, the little things started. My bathroom mirror was fogged up when I woke up, like someone had been breathing on it. I started waking up facing my mirror, even though my bed wasn't positioned that way. And then, 3 nights after the game, I noticed something impossible. My reflection was blinking slightly out of sync. It was barely noticeable at first, a millisecond delay, just enough to make my stomach twist. By the end of the week, I was sure of it. It wasn't a delay. It was learning. It was watching me, and it was getting better at pretending to be me. That's when I realized, I don't think I'm looking into the mirror anymore. I think something else is looking out and it wants to trade places. I stopped looking in mirrors. I covered them all, my bathroom, my bedroom, even my phone's front camera. I refused to see it. Whatever had taken my reflection's place, it was getting bolder. But it wasn't enough because my reflection didn't need me to look anymore. It had started watching me on its own. The first slip I was brushing my teeth using the window's reflection instead of the mirror. It was a habit now, a desperate attempt to avoid the truth. But then I saw it. A flicker. A flash of movement behind me. I whipped around. Nothing. But I swear, for just a second, I saw myself still brushing my teeth in the mirror. Like my reflection had forgotten to follow me. My hands shook as I turned back to the window, breath coming fast. I needed to stop this. I needed to end it. I grabbed my phone and called Ashley. "I need help." She was at my apartment within the hour, looking concerned. I told her everything. She didn't laugh this time. Instead, she said something that made my blood run cold. "What do you mean you stopped looking in mirrors?" I frowned. "Since that night I told you I haven't." "Then how did you just post a selfie yesterday?" My stomach dropped. I didn't. I yanked my phone out, hands shaking. She was right. On my Instagram, a brand new selfie, me standing in my bathroom, smiling. And I swear to God, the me in the photo was leaning slightly forward, like it had taken the picture from the other side of the glass. The final warning. That night, I made a mistake. I let curiosity win. I ripped the covers off my bathroom mirror, turned on the light, and stared. My reflection stared back. It was me. I laughed bitterly. Maybe I had lost it. Maybe I had worked myself into paranoia over nothing. Then my reflection smiled. I didn't. A slow, deliberate grin stretched across its face, showing too many teeth. I stumbled back. No, 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 no. It pressed its hands against the glass, and the glass pushed outward, like it was no longer a mirror, but a thin sheet of water, bending under pressure. Then, it spoke. "You're wasting time." I ran, fucking ran. The apartment was wrong. The walls looked stretched, the furniture slightly off. I grabbed my keys and threw myself outside. But when I hit the street, I froze. Something was already there. A man. Standing perfectly still under the streetlight. Dressed just like me. Same clothes, same posture. I took a shaky step forward. He lifted his head and I saw my own face, only not. His smile was too wide, his eyes too dark, his head tilted inhumanly far, and in a voice that was mine but not mine, he whispered, "Finally." I turned to run, but my feet wouldn't move. My body felt heavy. Wrong. I glanced down at my hands. They weren't my hands. The fingers were too thin, too pale, almost translucent. And then, realization hit me. I looked around. I wasn't outside. I was inside the mirror. And outside? Outside, the other me grinned, turned, and walked away, leaving me behind the glass, trapped. I should have never rented that house. I tell myself that every night, lying in bed, forcing myself to stay awake. Because when I sleep, he wakes up. The house on Ashwood Lane, it was supposed to be a fresh start. I had just moved to Portland, Oregon, after a brutal breakup. Found a cheap, fully furnished rental on Ashwood Lane, old but cozy. The landlord, a frail old woman named Mrs. Holloway, handed me the keys with a strange look in her eyes. "You're a deep sleeper, right?" I laughed. "Yeah, I guess," she hesitated, then softer. "Good. I should have walked away right then. The first night." The house felt wrong. Not haunted exactly. Just off. Like the walls were listening. Like I wasn't alone. I chalked it up to stress, unpacked the essentials, and went to bed early. That's when the real nightmare began. The shadow in the room sometime around 3 a.m. I woke up. At least I thought I did. I was paralyzed. My body felt like stone, my chest heavy, lungs barely drawing breath. I tried to move, but my arms wouldn't respond. That's when I saw him, a shape at the foot of my bed. At first I thought it was just a shadow. But then it moved. Closer. Crawling onto the mattress. A breath rasped from its throat. Slow and wet. It leaned over me, face just inches from mine. And though the room was dark, I could see its features too clearly. Sunken, hollowed-out eyes. Skin like melted wax. A jaw that hung open too wide, like it had been broken and never set right. I tried to scream. Nothing came out. The thing lowered itself, its face almost touching mine. Then, In a whisper that crawled into my skull, it spoke. Go back to sleep. I did. I didn't have a choice. The waking nightmare. The next morning, I shot up in bed, gasping for air. My body ached, as if I'd been dragged across the floor. I told myself it was just sleep paralysis. A dream. A hallucination. Until I looked down. My sheets were on the floor, crumpled in a messy pile, like someone had ripped them off in the night. And then I saw it. A single wet footprint on the wooden floor. Not mine. His. The rules. That night, I slept with the lights on. Didn't matter. I woke up again, paralyzed. And this time, he was already in the bed with me, his arms wrapped around my body, holding me like a lover, his breath against my ear reeking of rot, his fingers pressed into my skin, and then, he spoke again. You belong to me when you sleep. I struggled. Nothing. He dragged, his fingers along my ribs, slow and deliberate, counting them. You're softer now, he whispered. You let me stay longer. I tried to scream. Hush. And just like that, I was gone. The real horror. I don't know what happens when he takes me. All I know is I wake up somewhere else. Last night, I woke up outside standing barefoot in the middle of the road. The night before, I woke up with dirt under my nails. And this morning, there was blood on my pillow. Not mine. His. I don't sleep anymore, not really. I doze off in brief moments, waking up gasping for air like I've been drowning. But it doesn't matter. Because no matter what I do, no matter how hard I fight it, he always finds a way in. The truth about the house I tried to leave. I tried. After waking up outside, barefoot and shivering, I grabbed my keys and ran for my car. I didn't pack, didn't think, just bolted out the door and floored the gas. But when I reached the end of Ashwood Lane, my headlights hit something that made my stomach drop. The house. I was back in front of it. I slammed the brakes, heart hammering. I hadn't turned around. I tried again. Again. No matter which way I drove, no matter how many turns I took, I always ended up back in front of the house, like the road was folding in on itself, like something wouldn't let me leave. And then, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You were sleepwalking again. Be careful. I dropped the phone. Mrs. Holloway's warning. I pounded on Mrs. Holloway's door so hard I thought it would crack. She opened it slowly, her wrinkled face tired, like she had been expecting me. You shouldn't have woken up, she muttered, shaking her head. He doesn't like that. I grabbed her frail arm. Who is he? Her eyes flicked to the house behind me. He's always been there, waiting, watching. The first person who lived there never woke up again, neither did the second. She sighed. But the third, he fought it. Woke up too soon. And when he did, she trailed off. My mouth went dry. What happened to him? She looked me dead in the eye. He took his place. The final night I didn't want to go back. But I had nowhere else to go. So I boarded up the windows, stacked furniture against the bedroom door, chugged coffee. I was not going to sleep. And for hours I stayed awake. But at 3 a.m., something changed. The lights flickered. The room turned colder. And then, he started knocking. Not from the door. From inside the walls. Steady. Slow. Like a heartbeat. I pressed my hands against my ears, rocking back and forth. You're not real. You're not real. A whisper slithered through the dark. You let me in. The knocking grew louder. The walls bulged outward like something was pressing against them from the inside. I screamed as cracks split across the ceiling, and then it burst open. The room ripped apart, and he crawled out of the wall, his jaw hanging loose, his fingers stretched too long, his eyes nothing but voids. I scrambled back, but the room wasn't a room anymore. It was black, endless, like I was inside a dream that wasn't mine. And then he leaned in. "It's your turn." The last awakening. I woke up in the wall pressed between the wooden beams, wrapped in suffocating darkness. I couldn't scream, couldn't move, but I could hear. Someone was moving in the house. A new tenant. I heard the sound of them unpacking, their footsteps creaking on the floorboards. And then they paused. A whisper. I think I heard something in the walls. And inside, the dark, a smile stretched across my face, because now I was awake, and they were mine. Now that you've heard what no one should, remember, the terror doesn't end here. There are still many stories lurking in the dark, waiting to be told. So subscribe, leave a like, and share this video with your family. It helps me a lot to keep bringing you these chilling tales. And don't forget to check out the next video playing on the screen if you dare to face more nightmares.